Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hello and happy Snowmageddon Eve. It seems like we've got a lot of something coming our way. So we've been preparing and we've gone shopping. I have a loaf of bread that is rising. Well, the starter has been fed and is rising right now, so I can make a loaf of sourdough bread instead of. Somebody asked my husband today, did you go to the store and get your bread and your milk and everything? And he was like, oh no, my wife is making our bread. And they were like, oh, that's a good idea. So yeah, we decided we're going to make some bread for the storm. And I think the one thing that's making us slightly nervous is that we haven't been in this house before, and because we just moved in a storm, and it's a possibility that we might lose electricity. It sounds like in 2022, our neighbors here lost electricity for 5 days. So, we did some preparation. My husband went out and got these adapters that take Ryobi batteries. So Ryobi, if you're not aware, has like outdoor stuff like blowers and lawnmowers and stuff like that, but that takes these big batteries. And so he bought these converters or adapters where you put the battery in and it's got a plug on it, so you can plug in something like a heater or a charger. You can charge your phone and stuff. So we have a couple of those. We have some new little heaters, and I think that's our biggest concern. Other than that, just keeping us and the puppies warm. So as long as we've got electricity, we should be warm, you know. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So today I wanted to talk about acceptance, and I don't feel like you could talk too much ever about acceptance. Yesterday I talked about it's okay to be wrong. And I think acceptance, that rolls right into acceptance, doesn't it? I shared about acceptance the other day in my meeting, and I was talking about how I really feel that I meet life every day in acceptance. That's my daily starting point. It allows me to start my day just like grounding myself and being present and being like, this is who you are. These are your circumstances. And today is another day to be open, and it's a new, fresh opportunity. And that's what acceptance, if I wake up in acceptance, that's what the day looks like to me. It looks like opportunity. If I don't wake up in acceptance, if I open my eyes and I'm like, not again, you know? I mean, I lived many years opening my eyes and being like, no, no, not again. Like, go back to sleep, or pulling the cover over my eyes, like, what did I do last night? And just I can't keep living like this, that kind of thing. And so today I get to wake up and I get to take on this daily posture of acceptance. Um, I think that there is a deep relationship between acceptance and mental health, between acceptance and serenity. I think that practicing acceptance, you know how we say practicing acceptance, practicing meditation. It really didn't occur to me in the beginning when I would say practice meditation, practice acceptance, that's exactly what it is. It's practicing. Like I have to keep trying it. And so practicing acceptance creates emotional stability, but it's not like the first time I say, okay, I accept it. Like, let's move on, that it's gonna work. That all of a sudden I'm emotionally stable. Serenity, I think, naturally grows as my resistance dissolves, as I stop slowly resisting my circumstances, resisting walking around, allowing myself to smile even when things are hard. There is a calmness that I feel when I stop arguing with myself. Um, I think that my serenity, that I remember the day that I first felt serenity. And the first thing I thought of was the promises where it says, you will know serenity. I was like, oh, I know it. I know it. And, and it came from opening my mouth and talking about the hard stuff. And through that, through opening my mouth and talking about the hard stuff, I was able to start accepting it as my reality. And acceptance, I can't do anything about my problems if I'm not going to accept that it's a problem. And so, in that way, acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. Acceptance clears out the mental clutter so that I can start being present, thinking reasonably about what my actions are. It simplifies my decision making and it softens that emotional intensity that is attached to decisions, that is attached to my problems. Acceptance restores clarity. And I think it can't be overstated that it really requires a pause. I think so many things in life require a pause. And for me, I have to make a decision to pause. It's not natural for me, but it's a lifelong practice. I get to keep trying to pause and and practice acceptance because that's where growth is. Growth is practicing and getting better at acceptance. And as I continue to experience those situations where I have to accept, where I get to accept, that's where I become wiser. And I think that there's also a relationship between acceptance and accepting help. Um, if I'm not going to accept my problem, that I have a problem, then I can't take action. I also can't accept any help. Like acceptance opens the door to receiving support from other people. Acceptance, um, it shuts down that part of me that wants to isolate and hide. Um, it it makes me feel a little more courageous, a little braver, so that I can ask for help. And asking for help for me is still very hard, and I have to do it a lot. Sorry, I get to do it a lot. Um, and it requires me in stroke recovery to accept my disability. The only way that I can ask my husband for help is to accept my disability. And that might sound kind of odd, but um, here's an example. In the evenings, I typically make dinner and he comes upstairs from working and then we eat together. And then after work, after dinner, we he watches TV and I listen. So my seat is aligned so that I can't, if I strain, I can look at the TV, but it's made so that I can hear the TV because it's like right beside me, but I can't necessarily look at it without moving my head. So there are times when maybe we'll eat dinner and he will go downstairs and I don't know, do something, maybe call his mom or something. And I'm left there to make a decision. Do I want to just grab the remote and turn the TV on, or grab my phone and turn on the audio version of TV, which is what I do most of the time. But when I know that we're gonna quote unquote watch TV together, I have this tendency to want to reach for the remote and turn the TV on. And just doing that, turning the TV on, first of all, I don't even know how the remote works because I haven't watched TV in a couple years now, so I'm not even sure how to change the channel on this remote. But I have done it. I have turned on the TV and figured out what button to push. But just that alone, that action alone, hurts my head. And so I have to make that decision. Am I going to accept my disability as it is, like chronic pain? If you do the simple thing of grabbing the remote and turning the TV on, your head is going to hurt. Um, I struggle with, and this is kind of beside the point, I struggle with saying to myself whether it's worth it or not for my head to hurt. And that's unfortunate that I'm like, oh, it'll only hurt a little bit. And I grab the remote and turn it on. I shouldn't have to live in pain. I shouldn't have to feel pain. That's where acceptance comes in. I have a disability that causes chronic pain. It can't be good. If I'm doing something that causes pain, I shouldn't be doing it, right? So acceptance in that moment um, expands my capacity to make the right decisions. Um, Acceptance also gives me freedom of thought. If I if I I'm trying to think of an example right now, but I can't. But I have and I think a lot of alcoholics have this, an issue with obsessive thinking. So if if somebody says something to me, for example, I will think about it all day long. I will think about how much it bothered me all day long. And until I pause and I say, everyone is sick in some way. That's my line to myself. Everyone is sick in some way. What that tells me is everybody has the right to be human, and everybody has the right to say things that maybe I would interpret incorrectly. Um, or everybody has the right to hurt my feelings, even if they don't mean to. It happens, right? And so I will obsess about it. And so in those situations, I am not free from thought. Like I am obsessive. that meant it's taking up so much mental space that I can almost feel like the tension within me just clenching with frustration or whatever it is that it's anger, whatever it's causing me. So if I can remember to pause and practice acceptance, accepting people for who they are, how they are at that moment, then I can free my thoughts. I can free myself up to replace that rumination with clarity within the present. And so acceptance also creates mental freedom. Um, I think that if we use acceptance on a daily basis, our choices become calmer, easier. I'm able to be more thoughtful about my choices if I take that intentional action to like stop and be like, well, I can't change people, places, and things, right? Um, Acceptance just becomes this intentional calmness that I get to live in, and life just becomes more navigatable. It anchors me. Acceptance anchors me all day long because my brain can be just out there. I envision like, okay, my body's here and my brain is like up in the clouds, just floating. You know how they say, in a meditative practice, you can imagine your thoughts as clouds and just let them float by and not grab a hold of any of them, just let them float by. Well, I mean, that really resonates with me because I just feel like that's what my brain is doing all day long. I just feel like there is a windstorm of clouds just constantly going by, constantly going by. And and I've been curious as to, I mean, I know not all alcoholics suffer from the same, mental unwellness or um, emotional struggles and everything. But I always wonder if many alcoholics have this issue with quieting down their minds. Like, I know there's people who have that issue and are not alcoholics, and I don't know what in the heck they do, but I know somebody specifically that I have in mind whose brain is just like constantly going and doesn't stop. And unfortunately, the mouth follows, but but yet he's not an alcoholic. And it's like, how do they function like that? What do they do? If they're not an alcoholic, what do they do to shut it down? Or do they just live in this constant state of tension? I mean, I feel like that's how it must be. Before I hit record, I was thinking a bit about how I was thinking about mental health. So I was in the kitchen and I was making myself a steak quesadilla for lunch with some leftover steak on the grill that we had the other night. And I was thinking about mental health and I was thinking there are people in the world who have severe mental health disorders. There are people in the world who have slight mental health disorders. And there are people in the world who just who see the symptoms of being human, of life being lifey and having to deal with it as a mental health disorder, like that aren't prepared to deal with life as it comes, but yet don't have a mental health disorder. They have more of a social, they're not trained, like socially not trained, or they weren't prepared by their parents or whatever it is. Anyway, I don't think that really relates to anything that we're talking about, but it was crossing my mind, and I wonder if you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, so I'll just wrap it up with I think that there is a freedom that acceptance creates. It's a mental calmness, and I think it just makes life a little easier, right? I think each day begins with a choice. And that choice is, do I accept my present, right? Do I accept my present the way that it is? Do I accept my circumstances? Am I willing to begin again today? And when I can accept that, that's when I put 2 feet on the ground and I get going. It brings me a lot of serenity if I do that. So I just wanted to share that with you. And that's all I have. So thank you for listening. And if I don't talk to you, please take care and be safe in the storm. And I will check in. Hopefully, we don't lose electricity, and I'll just keep checking in. So, warm thoughts, and I will talk to you soon.